First of all, man, I'm excited. This is probably, first of all, give yourselves a round of applause. Look at this room, man. This is probably the best room that we've ever had. So, was it 1.4 billion? That's a lot. So yeah, did anybody catch any of the reoccurring themes? I'm always taking notes and listening and trying to see if I'm understanding the problem that we're here to solve, right? And for each one of you individually, it's all something different. But what did you guys hear?
Great places to visit.
Right. I got my bucket list expanded today. Right. Recruiting? Is it every time? How many of you have been here more than 5 times and it's been recruiting every single time? Okay. What other theme did y'all pick up on? Rebuilding. Why is that happening? Business model. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Right. So, I've rebuilt. I've had some experience rebuilding. So, I think most of us have. So, for me, the focus, when I left the last mastermind, I'm looking for one thing, guys: sustainability. I'm looking for the one thing that I can put my next, 5-10 years in that's going to get me to where I want to go. And so, I think if there's one thing that I would want to focus on is what am I doing and how sustainable is what I'm doing. So, another thing that is a filter, if you will, that I run things through is this shit fun? And for me, this shit is fun. So I love doing these masterminds. This is my favorite thing that I do. So it's part of, when I came, out of the last mastermind, getting clarity. Michael gave me the privilege of getting to kind of choose what I want to do within all the business opportunities that we have and things that I might want to focus on. And, we looked real hard at everything. And no different than, coaching. We got into coaching because I knew that when I sold 50 houses, next month I had to sell 50 houses again, right? So that was one of the reasons I got out of real estate was, trying to step out was so that I could do something that was more sustainable. Even with coaching, people come and people go. So you get to a certain point in every business that I've been in where there's a sustainability challenge where you got to sell 40 because you're going to lose 40. So, that's, as I look back on all the business, adventures that we've been on and had a lot of fun, we've visited a lot of places, this is where my passion is. Like, where I want to be is with people like you. And I can tell you, if you haven't had the privilege of working side by side with Michel Reese or side by side with Stasek or side by side with any one of you guys, like, there's nothing like working next to a workhorse every single day. Together, when you put all your fires together and make one big fire, which if y'all remember, I don't remember which mastermind exactly it was, but it's on the mastermind page or whatever. And I said, imagine if you had $10 million in the bank, would you go back to work tomorrow? And that's a real interesting question you should be asking yourself over the next, today and tomorrow. And if you wouldn't, what would have to change for you to want to go back? What would have to change? And so I'm always thinking about those things and where I want to put this effort. And I've had the privilege of getting to work with Curtis. Curtis, how long have we known each other?
Probably as 2005, 2004.
Yeah.
Actually, we talked in probably 2002.
So you can tell the story you tell. I don't remember. You apparently I called you from the 30 under 30. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was on the 30 under 30, which I guess I thought it was the second year, but it turns out it was on the third year because we got a couple people here that were a year before us. So
The inaugural edition.
yeah. So I was
The second year. I was in the first year.
I was on the 30 under 30, and different people call you from across the country, different stuff like that. And I remember because I had no idea where Lawton, Oklahoma was. And he was really, really young, and he just wouldn't shut up and and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! I'm gonna do this, and I can." He was telling me how incredible he was doing, but he was cool about it. But I was like, "Wow, this is pretty cool." So we started talking for a while, and I said, "Well, I'll watch, and see how you're doing." I think we talked once or twice more throughout the year, and then the next year he was on it. And I was like, "Dang, that was cool." So I called up, talked to him, congratulated him, and then I saw him a couple months later at a Proctor event, and then another one, a couple other ones, and then we got to hang out probably a lot in like 2005. We started seeing each other quite a bit in San Francisco, at a big event, and then into radio and stuff like that.
Right. So we've all been trying to solve the same problems, going around the country, every event, buying everything you can buy, trying to all solve the same problem, and that's the sustainability problem. The reason that it's building and rebuilding, y'all used a bunch of different words. I think started over. Chris, you just used the word started over. Ups and downs. You know what I'm saying? Like almost everyone has gone through this period where you build it up, tear it down, or it falls down, and then you have to build it up. And we all go, well, this time I'm going to do it different. I'm going to build it. It's culture. I'm going to build. It's the culture, right? Like that's what was wrong. It was the wrong people, or whatever the case may be. It's not. It's the wrong business model. So like that's the problem. Until you solve the business model problem, you can't really solve the real problem. That's what we have to solve. So and interestingly enough, I was going to pull it up. I didn't. The number changes pretty regular. But since recruiting is the topic, Al and I are going to share. I mean, this isn't, the goal of Mastermind is not to talk about EXP. That's not the whole goal. But I think it does raise the biggest opportunity that I've ever seen in the last 20 years of selling real estate. And I think that it's viable that we talk through as much of it as you guys want to talk through it. So tomorrow, Al and I are going to just share what we've been doing, the vision we have, and kind of what we've been seeing, and what we feel like the opportunity is, and kind of where we're at with things. But I will say this. If every one of you in the room have a recruiting problem, we recruited 200 or I think, me and Al's buckets together was 200 agents in the last 90 days plus however long Al was in before me. So in mine is 116 or something agents in 90 days, but I didn't speak to 116 people, and I didn't have to deliver the promise to 116 people. And when you want to talk about something that's scalable or something that's duplicatable or something that you don't have to do all the heavy work that's related to it, it's just a really interesting model. So we'll spend some time tomorrow just going through. We're just going to share, open book, what's working, what we're doing, where we're going, what we think the next move is, and then how we can help you do it. And that's really what I'm most excited about. So let's see, what else do I have? There's a third word that I would say that is become the focus, and that's duplication. That's anything that we're trying to do. Like that's the whole reason that the placemats got created in the first place was duplication. If you go on a listing appointment, how many of you have a hard time training your agents to be out as good as you are on the appointment? Right? That's a big step that we all try to make when we're trying to transition out. Which most of you, when you're rebuilding, you're trying to rehire that listing agent that can go out and be you on a listing appointment. That's the hardest one. But what is in this model with EXP? What can we do with this duplication? If we can have duplication in this model where anybody can go out and recruit someone onto your team, that's where the real leverage is. If you want freedom, it's all going to come from leverage. Where are you getting leverage from? And that's what I see in this model. That's it's like dipping your sticking your net out and a flow of cash is just flowing right to you. It's the most unbelievable thing I've ever experienced, and it's the most fun I've ever had. And I was mentioning Curtis for the purpose of I've been fortunate to work with Mike every day for the last 10 years, and people like Woods for the last 2-3 years, and John, so I've had that experience of working next to somebody that works as hard as you every day. And it's amazing. It's the most gratifying thing you could ever have. And I don't know how many of you have that. Some of you guys are partners and stuff like that, and you have experienced it. But when you get to work shoulder to shoulder with badasses every day, it's unbelievable. I knew Curtis had to be a badass, but I didn't know until I worked with him. And that dude works hard as anybody I've ever seen. It's a blast. It's the most fun I've ever had. That's all I can tell you. Until you experience it, you really just can't know. But anyways, that's we're not going to make it all about that, but I want to share an open book and have an open, really that open dialogue about here's what we think, here's what we're doing, here's what we know, here's what we're experiencing. What do you guys think? What does it look like if we were going to do this together, and how do we make it bigger and make it more fun? So, anyways, that's what we'll talk about tomorrow. And who's up next?
We'll take about a 10-minute break, and then we're going to jump into our first hot seat.
Cool. Does anybody have any questions, anyways, to start, or anything that you'd like to make sure we cover, don't cover? Anything? Any suggestions? Oh, come on. Surely you guys have some burning questions or something, right? No? Yep.
I don't know if this is the time to talk about EXP, or...
Well, I don't think we'll go deep on it, just because I don't think we have the time allotted for it. But what is it you're trying to pick up on?
Yeah, well, we've had the conversation, right, about the industry being disrupted. And
Right.
The core thing that's brought us together and aligned us with y'all.
Right.
And so, obviously, any of the disruptive models in other industries come about by changing the game for the consumer. And
Right.
I like the EXP model. I see it's
Right.
on the Keller, so it's not too far off from
Right.
where we're at. But my question is, if we're going to make a move that's going to position us for better consistency and durability long term, in everything that we've talked about thus far is like how when disruption comes, it's going to come because the game gets changed for the consumer. And so my question is, when the trajectory of EXP, where it's going, how is it going to change the game for the consumer and create more durability rather than just better position us for more profitability, and passive income and things? Because we can't cover our eyes and just pretend that that's not still there.
Right. Sure.
So-
No question. So far, what I feel like we've tried to do with NAEA and being positioned as an expert advisor, creating a defining gap between us and the average agent, we've done a pretty good job of that, no matter what brand you're under, right? So if it's not the brand, if the brand isn't what matters, it's you that matters in terms of the consumer experience, then to me, I don't feel like the threat is any different, but you're working under a different business model that gives you, a better opportunity, for longevity, in my opinion, compared to any other model. And it gives us an opportunity again. You go back, how many of you guys know somebody at Keller Williams that got in early? Anybody know anybody that made a lot of money? Yeah. There's some multiple millionaires, and that was a profit share. That's not even on the same planet as what this is. So this is it is opportunity, and the business model is just nailed. That's the thing that I see. And my big question mark on what's going to disrupt real estate is I don't know. I figure if we were going to see it, by now they put enough billions of dollars at it. Shoot, how much is Redfin up to now? 200 and something million dollars they put into the real estate industry, all trying to give money back to the consumer, and they haven't made any headway in terms of disrupting anything. They're giving money back to the consumer. So what's going to really disrupt the consumer? If the consumer nobody's identified what the consumer really wants, and that's just what's missing. And until they have something that magically produces that, I don't see how they're going to replace the real estate agent and the relationship with the buyer and seller. Is it possible? Absolutely, I guess it is. But I just don't know what that's going to be. Is it going to replace the real estate agent that's an expert? I doubt it. And not the one that's positioned in the marketplace as the go-to person.
That becomes the question: is on the model for EXP, if it is to bring everyone under the sun into this umbrella, if what the disruptive models tend to do is the industry bifurcates, right? So it separates into two tiers. You get a lower discount model where the consumers are going to go, and it looks like Redfin is moving towards that model, right? They're hacking at commissions, salaried agents, they're scaling, they're gaining market share. And then who's going to be this player when the market segments, if it is true experts? And the question I'd have is, like, on the recruiting model of EXP, if it is just bringing everyone under the sun, then the company itself, the brand itself, is not creating that differentiated proposition to the consumer. And that's been the problem all along with real estate is, every other industry, the brand is representative of consumer experience. In real estate, the brand doesn't represent the consumer experience. So that's, I'm not, I'm asking the question just because
right. No,
I
I
want to
get
make
it.
an intelligent decision.
It's a great conversation.
So I'll say real quick, one of the things that attracted me to it was kind of going through the same thought process, and I think, are agents ever going to be gone, right? Are you gonna, and I agree, I don't think they're ever going to. So if you run a company or you run a big team, the consumer is really the agent that works for you, right? That's really our consumer. If you run a big team, our customer, our client, right, is to try and make them happy and trying to go through that process. And then looking at it, to kind of be over the top with it, is I go, you know what, EXP has a chance to actually make real estate, solid and make it stay together, because you've got agents that if they're making an extra $1,500, $2,000, $5,000 a month going into it, when there's a downturn, they're not going to bail. Right now, where people, they'll stick around and fight for their career. They'll probably stay in, the longevity will stick in, as opposed to, this is a hobby on the side. And so the longer they're in the business, the better chance they've got to increase their skills, give the client a better experience throughout there. So I think over time, it's going to attract what it's going to attract, but I think that it'll keep people and give them some longevity versus the treadmill of agents just spinning all the time. I think it's got a chance to give some stability to it, in my opinion.
So does margin create stability? It does.
Well, I think stability creates stability, right? If someone has a built-in, you look at Redfin and some other ones, they're giving people a salary to keep them in. If they didn't have that salary, you look at your own teams, who are the people that stayed around for a long time? A lot of times it's people that had a small salary that stuck around a lot longer, right? So if an agent has some type of passive income in it, even a lot of the people in KW, the people that stuck around are people that had some type of revenue, had some type of ownership, had some type of reason. You know, you're going to walk away when you've got 20,000 in stock or something. And so I think this gives people a chance to fight for it, right? That's
Certainly increase durability from the agent to the brand, and the affinity there, just like Chief Keller did with their.
yeah. I think
Hey,
so.
Brent, mind if I jump in here for a second?
Yeah.
So, at least in Washington, I'm sure it's other states, right? The bar for people to enter the profession is super, super low, right? And most of the agents I know do nothing to develop themselves professionally, to get better at sales, be able to represent their clients. EXP, from what I've seen so far, has unprecedented training opportunities available to everybody, dovetailed in with NAEA. Now we can basically, the game changer as a consumer is a much more educated, a much higher trained level of agent, right? And so when the industry does bifurcate, right, where you have Redfin just chasing, lower commissions, well, we're going to have, I believe that EXP will be the professional trained, the ones that know the most, spend the most time, and have elevated the industry and hopefully elevate the perception of real estate agents from being a commodity to being a professional, like a lawyer or an attorney.
All right.
So I'm not in real estate, right? I mean, I am. I flipped houses. I've done probably 2,000 transactions. I was Mike's loan officer when he was the #1 producing agent in Collin County. So I've known these guys forever. One thing I can tell you guys is everybody in the room has a recruiting, like I won't say a problem, but an issue. That's what they want, right? The second that you start treating your agents like your kids and your clients, the people that buy houses from you, like your grandkids, everything changes. Because he's right, whoever said it originally, maybe it was you, your customers or your agents are your actual clients. Then their clients, which are like grandchildren, are actually the clients that produce the money, right? And so I always say that it's my job when I was a loan officer to treat agents. Because same thing, you're recruiting agents as a loan officer too. So I treated Mike as if he was my kid. I had to make sure he had food on his plate. I had to make sure that he had clothes on his back. I had to make sure of all that stuff, right? Like he's my responsibility. Now, when he sent me a buyer to do a loan, that's like a grandkid. He's here for the summer, 30 days, and then he goes back home with his mom, and I never see him again until the next year. And that's the way so many people get focused on their clients and selling the houses. But meanwhile, if you could recruit enough agents that did that and just make sure that your agents are taken care of, makes all the difference in the world.
It's a great explanation. Right. Yeah, I mean it's what I'm hearing, and I think everybody started to become aware of is we are all in a recruiting model in our businesses, and we have to treat it as such. And what's the best value proposition, and what's the most value you can add to their lives? I think that's where purpose comes in. And I've heard a few of you say it as you go around the room. Where are you adding the most value? And when you look at the model, there's more value being added in a retirement opportunity and a passive revenue stream opportunity. And if we can help agents both become the best at their game in real estate, which I believe we can all do that, and we can help them create additional streams of revenue and potentially a retirement opportunity that doesn't currently exist in anybody's model that I've seen. We can do. I think we got the horsepower in this room to do quite a bit and have a lot of fun along the way. So it's interesting. It'll be a good conversation. Happy to share what we're doing and what we see and what we think we're going to be able to accomplish. So.
Awesome.
Yep. Cool. We good?
Good.
Take a break?
All right, guys, we'll take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back in with our first hot seat.